Hey guys, it's Mark from Ace Tutors, and in this video, I'm going to explain the chi-square test for goodness of fit. This video will continue my series on hypothesis testing, but it will also be one of multiple videos I cover on the different types of chi-square tests you'll see, so let's jump right into it. As a reminder, the goal of hypothesis testing is to make a certain conclusion about a large population by using data from a smaller sample. Chi-square tests for goodness of fit are just one way to do that when you have certain data and you want to answer a specific question about the population. So when would you use this test type? Well, you would use this type of hypothesis test whenever you have two or more assumed proportion values for your population, and you want to answer the question, do my population proportions differ from these assumed values? Now, to solve these types of problems, we're going to use the same process we follow for all hypothesis test problems, the 5 C's, which we first discussed in my video covering the idea of hypothesis testing in general. We are first going to create our hypotheses for a particular problem, then we will check certain necessary conditions are true in order to use this chi-square test method. Next, we will calculate our test statistic and p-value, compare these to our critical value and alpha value, and finally conclude based on our findings. Alright, let's dive into each of these steps with our first example. Your professor gave your class a really hard test. He said 45% of students got A's, 20% got B's, 15% got C's, 10% D's, and 10% F's. With how hard the test was, you don't believe him. You take a simple random sample of 60 students in your class and find 20 got A's, 15 got B's, 8 got C's, 12 got D's, and 5 got F's. At an alpha value of 0.05, test your professor's claim. Okay, first, before we get into our 5-step process, for each of these types of problems, I first like to organize our information in a table. To do this, let's create a column for each of our different categories. In our example, a student could have either gotten an A, B, C, D, or F on the test. Next, let's create a row for what the assumed or expected percents are for each category. According to the professor, these were the proportions of students that fell into each category. Now let's make a third row for the observed number of students we found in each category. And lastly, since we're trying to compare the sample data we collected to the distribution of grades that the teacher claims, we need to get these into similar units. Right now, we have the expected students per grade in a percentage and the observed students per grade in number of students. So let's calculate how many out of the 60 students we would expect in each grade category if the teacher's distribution was correct. To do that, we'll take the total number of students and multiply that by the percentage of each category. Doing that for each grade, we see that we would expect 27 students to have gotten A's, 12 to have gotten B's, 9 C's, 6 D's, and 6 F's. With that created, let's now start our 5-step process and create our null and alternative hypotheses. As always, I like to start with our alternative hypothesis. Our alternative hypothesis, H sub A, is whatever we're testing about the population. Unlike creating our hypotheses for the 1 or 2 sample tests we have been doing, these will look a little different. Instead of testing whether a certain population parameter is either less than, greater than, or not equal to a value, it's a bit more simple for these tests. For every chi-square test for goodness of fit, there's always some assumed set of proportions that different categories in the population follow. And all you're ever testing is to see if the true distribution of proportions across these categories is different than what is assumed or expected. So for our problem, we're testing to see whether the grades on this test did not follow the distribution your teacher claimed. So we can say our alternative hypothesis is something like the assumed grade distribution is incorrect. Then our null hypothesis is always just the opposite of this, which makes our null hypothesis H sub O that the grade distribution is actually correct. Now that we have our hypotheses, we next need to check our conditions. For chi-square tests, there are 3 different conditions that need to be satisfied in order for us to be able to use this test type. Essentially, we're trying to make sure that the data we collected is a good representation of the overall population. The first condition we need to meet is that the data we collect is from a simple random sample of the population to ensure we picked our data points randomly. The second is similar to our condition for 1 or 2 sample tests for proportions, where n times p has to be greater than or equal to 5 or 10, depending on your teacher and textbook. This condition is that all expected counts for all categories has to be greater than or equal to 5. This is needed to ensure that we can use a chi-square distribution to approximate our sampling distribution. And lastly, the third condition we need to meet is that the sample size is less than 10% of the overall population to ensure that our data points are independent from one another. Going through these for our problem, the question states that you take a simple random sample, so that checks off the first condition. Next, when we calculated the expected counts for each category, we found each of them to be greater than or equal to 5, so that checks off the second condition. Lastly, let's assume there are more than 600 students taking this class, so that the sample size of 60 is less than 10% of the population size, and that checks off our third condition. Okay, now that our conditions are met, we can move on with the problem and calculate the test statistic and p-value for our sample. As a reminder, a test statistic is just a standardized value that describes how far our sample data is from our assumed population parameters. And the p-value describes the probability of getting our sample data that is that far from the assumed values if the assumed values are actually correct. So for these test types, what do we use for our test statistic? Well, the test statistic we use is called a chi-square statistic. But what actually is a chi-square statistic? Well, if you recall, for one sample test where we're testing a single proportion, we always use a z-statistic. In those examples, a z-statistic tells how far our single observed sample proportion is from the expected population proportion. In these goodness of fit examples, you can think of it like we're doing the same thing, but now we have multiple proportions that each describe the number of students we expect to be in each category. And we're finding how far the observed counts of students for each category are from the expected counts for each category. As such, we need some way to see how far off each of our observed data is from the expected values and combine them all together. That is exactly what the chi-square statistic and the resulting chi-square distribution gets us. To calculate this, we find a z-statistic for each of our proportions or categories. Then we square them to get rid of the potential for negative values, and then add them all up to get our chi-square value. As a result, just like any of our test statistics, this will get us a measure of how far our sample data is from the assumed or expected values. More concretely, the formula for chi-square is the sum of O minus E squared divided by E, where O is the observed number of students for a grade, and E is the expected number of students for a grade. Calculating this for our problem, we would plug in the values for each of our grades or categories, and then we would add all of them up. In the end, we find that chi-square equals about 8.84. Now that we have all of this calculated, let's add this to our distribution. As I mentioned, for these types of problems, we're using a chi-square distribution, which corresponds to our chi-square statistic, and looks like this. One thing you'll notice that is different about this distribution compared to the normal or t distributions is that it's all positive. And that's because we squared each of the values for our categories before adding them all together. The next thing is that the magnitude of chi-square depends on how many categories there are. We have 5 different categories for our problem, but if we had something like 100 categories we were adding up, then our chi-squared value would be much higher just because the number of categories. To compensate for this, we have to bring back the idea of degrees of freedom, which we discussed in some of my hypothesis test videos using the t-distribution. For chi-square tests for goodness of fit, the degrees of freedom is calculated by the number of categories k minus 1. As the degrees of freedom increase, the distribution spreads out more positively and actually eventually approaches the shape of a normal distribution. For our example, we have 5 categories, so our degrees of freedom are 4, which causes our chi-square distribution to look like this. Now, when we calculated the chi-square statistic for our problem, we found that to be 8.84, which is about here in the distribution. As a reminder, the test statistic is a measure of how far our sample data is from the assumed population values. To find the probability of getting this sample data if our assumed values are actually correct, we need to find the p-value like we always do by finding the area in the distribution from this test statistic to the tail. But one thing to note is that because chi-square is always positive, we're almost always going to do a right-tailed test. So we need to find the area from our test statistic to the right tail. To do that, we'll use this calculator that's on our website. I'll put a link here and in the description if you want to check it out. Since we have a chi-square statistic and we're looking for a p-value, I'll select the chi-square to p-value button. Then just like we talked about, I'll select the right-tailed type. Next, I'll enter our chi-square value of 8.84 and our degrees of freedom of 4 to find that the p-value is about 0.0652. Now that we have our test statistic and p-value, we can compare these to our critical value or alpha value. As a reminder from my previous video, to make this comparison, you can either compare your test statistic to our critical value or your p-value to your alpha value. Since we have our alpha value given in the problem, and we just calculated our p-value, let's compare those two. It works out the same no matter which way you do it. Okay, to compare our p and alpha values, we just need to determine which one is bigger or smaller. With a p-value of 0.0652 and an alpha value of 0.05, the p-value is greater than the alpha value. Okay, great. Now that our comparison is done, we can move on to our last step, conclude. If you recall, there are only two conclusions you can make for hypothesis testing problems. You can either reject the null hypothesis in favor of the alternative hypothesis, or we can fail to reject the null hypothesis. To know when to make each conclusion, I like to remember the saying, if p is low, reject HO. That means that if our p-value is low, aka lower than our alpha value, we should reject HO, the null hypothesis. If the p-value is greater than our alpha value, we would fail to reject the null hypothesis. For our example, the p-value of 0.0652 was greater than our alpha value of 0.05, so we would fail to reject our null hypothesis. To put this in context of the problem, we could say at a 5% significance level, we fail to reject the null hypothesis and have insufficient evidence to support the claim that the true distribution of grades in this class is different than the professor's. Okay, so that's how you do a chi-square test for goodness of fit. If any of those steps were confusing, don't worry. I encourage you to go back and watch each step or our previous videos to really internalize what we did for each of the 5 steps in our process. This will continue to be really important as we follow this 5-step process for every single type of hypothesis testing problem we do. First, we create our hypotheses, then check conditions, then calculate our test statistic and p-value, then compare those values to our critical or alpha value, and finally conclude based on our findings. In future videos, I'll cover many more examples of this and other hypothesis test types. I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, please hit that like and subscribe button to support us making more videos for you. If you didn't, please leave us a comment down below to let us know what we can do better. Thanks again for watching, and remember, you have big dreams. Don't let a class get in the way.